good evening to you. It is the 5th day of June 2016. Good evening and welcome to Checkpoint tonight, even on the eve of what some term as Machozi Monday, but a very serious one this time around, considering the events of the past week. We'll be discussing that on Checkpoint a little later on. My panelists tonight, we have Senator Moses Kajwang and Onyangolo from the National Alliance Party. We'll also be speaking to Dr. Akuru Alcott. Before we get into that discussion, he was a member of that selection panel for the IEBC. We'll be getting his thoughts on that, also on why he has offered to mediate and what that means exactly. The hashtag to use on social media is Checkpoint. Welcome to the program. I'm Yvonne Okwara Matole. Our sign language interpreter is William Silla. I want to start tonight, though, on a tragic note. A family in Meru is mourning the loss of 5 family members who perished in a Sunday dawn fire. Police have launched investigations into the cause of the incident.
Still reeling in shock and disbelief, these are residents of Nchaure village in Takira location, Imenti North Sub-County. They woke up to a rude shock after 5 family members perished in the fire.
We don't want to just speculate, but 5 people dying in a fire, in a room, without even trying to struggle. All we need is just the police, and you know the police in Meru, what they do normally.
27-year-old Boniface Kimaita and his 20-year-old brother Jimarish Muriuki breathed their last along with their nephews, 14-year-old Dennis Waithanje, who was in Form 1, and 7-year-old Nixon Munene, and also their 2-year-old niece Winnie Wanjiko.
Such a thing should not happen again. Tunaomba tu serikali ingie, angalie hawa ni watoto wadogo, na kama mtoto ameingia tuseme saa 10 ama saa 9 ya usiku, nyumba isomeke saa hiyo ama saa 10 within 2 hours, we really feel that something should have happened.
The cause of the fire remains unclear.
Tumearifiwa kwamba mwenye nyumba alifika kama saa 9 ya usiku na moto imetokezea saa 10. So tunataka kuangalia kama kuna link ya yeye kukuja wakati huo na moto kutokezea.
Mama mwenye huyu hao watoto watatu, huyo kijana wa Form 1 na wengine hayuko hapa, yuko nafanya kazi Nairobi, walikuwa nakuja kutembea kwa nyanya yao. Nimeweza kuongea na yeye na hapo njiani anakuja. Na pia baba ya hao watoto pia nimeongea na yeye. Na pia yeye ameniahidi ya kwamba atakuja.
The police are asking anyone with any relevant information on this incident to volunteer it to investigators. Ellen Wanjiru, KTN News.
Now, will it be yet another bloody Monday? We don't know. What we do know is that the opposition maintains that they will be on the streets tomorrow on protests that have already been outlawed by the police. Here's Chris Thyro with those details.
After postponing the weekly demonstrations last Monday to give dialogue a chance, the opposition CORD is now expected to be back on the streets tomorrow to demand the removal of IEBC from office. But the police have warned that no demonstrations will be entertained this Monday.
But I would like to state clearly, we are not going to allow any demonstration. You are aware this matter is in the court. And on tomorrow, that matter is being had before court. And the court outlawed those demonstrations regarding IEBC.
Comments that appear to be in sync with the Inspector General of Police, Joseph Boynet, who warned politicians against using criminal guns in political activities.
We'll be on hand to ensure that the law, as it is obeyed by everyone. Disobeyed the law and came to the road, we, the National Police, will do what we are required to do, enforce the law.
But the opposition leaders will hear none of it. They argue that the actions are guided and protected by the law.
We are not in that business of trying to overthrow the government through unlawful means. Our methods are purely constitutional, purely legal.
Hatuogopi rudi nyuma, hatuogopi kifo, hatuogopi kukamatwa. We are being told that we will be arrested from our houses. Me, I'm waiting to wake up tomorrow morning and find police officers in my main door and ask them, what do you want? Are you looking for Mudama? Yes, here I am.
Despite the opposition unveiling their 5-member mediation team on Thursday, the Jubilee side of the coalition has remained defiant, maintaining that any negotiations between the government and the opposition can only be conducted in Parliament.
Hatuwezi kurudi tena mambo ya zamani ya kupiganisha Wakenya na kuweka chuki na kuleta ukabila ambayo itaturudisha nyuma kama watu wa Kenya. That one we will not do.
Raila ajue imefika wakati ambaye tumechoka na habari yake ya kupiga serikali ya Uhuru Kenyatta kila wakati.
The Legal Affairs Committee in the National Assembly that had already initiated the dialogue process is tomorrow expected to start collecting views from Kenyans on the necessary electoral reforms needed ahead of the 2017 general elections. Chris Dairo, KTN News.
All right, so let's talk to somebody who was there from the beginning, and that is Dr. Akuru Alcott, who's a 2017 presidential hopeful from Third Way Alliance Kenya, and he was a member of that IEBC selection panel. So he joins me live now here on Checkpoint. Thanks, Dr. for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So you were in that selection panel. You came up with the 3 names. Isaac Hassan came out on top. But talk to us about then, your view on the scandals that have taken place in the IEBC so far and the stalemate that exists at the moment.
Well, of course, I think it's very unfortunate, the situation we have today in the IEBC. But like you said, the selection panel which I chaired put in the best recruitment machinery and mechanism that this country has ever seen. It was the most transparent process, televised live. We asked Kenyans for their views. We presented names and we questioned all those people based on the dossiers that Kenyans gave us. So we presented to Kenyans under the circumstances the best guys for the job. I mean, of course, the 2 principals then, Raila Odinga and Mwai Kibaki, made the appointments. Now, what happens thereafter really was way out of the selection panel. But yes, we are in a situation where today there is a stalemate, there is a standoff. So as you are aware that I issued a statement in which I offered as the leader of the Third Way Alliance to mediate over this issue because, trust me, Yvonne, these issues are solvable. Okay. They can be resolved. And for me, the reason I think they should be resolved is because, listen, we do not want to see another Kenya lose their lives. We do not want to see this country, lapse again to the situation of 2007, 2008, because it was again about the integrity of the electoral management body, the ECK then.
All right.
So these issues can be resolved. And actually what I have offered to do as the leader of Third Way, as a leader in this matter, is to try and bring both parties on a table.
All right, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I'd just like to know from your position whether you think this commission, as constituted presently, is capable of conducting a free and fair poll in 2017, considering that you have now also thrown your hat in the ring.
Yeah, I think, listen, before we come to that, it's important to say that to acknowledge the fact that there is a standoff today in which CORD has placed allegations.
Are CORD's allegations valid? Do you think? Do they hold any water, any merit, or is that not an issue?
I think the bottom line is this. There are issues that have been raised about IEBC. There was an audit report that was released in 2014. I think what we need to do right now is to be able to say to what extent are those issues and concerns being addressed. So for me, the most important thing is to say what are the systems and processes that currently exist in IEBC to be able to give Kenyans the confidence for the next general election. But that's not really the most important issue right now. Is there is a standoff, and I'll tell you this in the interest of transparency. I have met interested parties on this issue, and there is a willingness to actually come on the table to negotiate on the best solution going forward.
At what level, Dr. is there a willingness? Because we're seeing, the top leaders both taking very hardline positions.
No, I can assure you that I've met interested parties not at least on all the three concerned parties, but I can tell you that I've met let me not disclose the names right now because we're in the process of trying to negotiate actually a roundtable. And I think both sides are actually willing to talk. I think, listen, what will hurt this country, Yvonne, is that if we continue perpetuating these hard stands that have been taken by either side. Right now, as we speak, everybody is digging in. You know, on the Jubilee side, they are digging into the parliamentary process. On the court side, they are dealing on the question of exit. On the IEBC side, I think they are digging into the question of let's go the tribunal way. But what gives me relief is that after I went out of my way to try and reach out these interested parties, there is actually a willingness to be able to sit on a round table and dialogue. Because it doesn't really matter today if everybody takes the hard stand. It is Kenya that is going to hurt. It is the ordinary person that's going to be killed on the street. It is this country's nationalism, nationhood that's going to tear apart. Now, who wants to see that happen? As far as I'm concerned, the interested parties of Meru do not want to see that. People do not want people to lose their lives with their names. So I think this is why I have chosen, actually, and I have put my neck out there. Even though I'm an interested party, yes. I want to participate in the next general election as a presidential candidate. But who will want to participate in the general election as a presidential candidate with this kind of stalemate? Okay. With this kind of, so we must find solutions.
All right.
There's no two way about it.
Okay, we'll get to the solutions in a moment because that's what I would like to round up our discussion on this issue. But, you know, like you rightly say, you are an interested party in this. Well, to be fair, all Kenyans are interested parties, Absolutely. You know, voters, and wanting to see, you know, a peaceful general election. But with the allegations that have been put up against the commissioners, against the commission, do you believe that, you know, that has taken away from it some sort of merit or legitimacy to conduct the next general election? In other words, what would be the best possible outcome for all the stakeholders, including the voters?
First of all, Yvonne, I am not the only leader who has come forward so far to say that dialogue is important. We are talking about 157 members of parliament who have expressed interest to resolve this issue. We are talking about the church. We are talking about Kenyans generally, like you say. So, yes, there are allegations against some of the commissioners. But I think what I would be interested to, what I would like to see going forward is us being able to separate between the institution of the IEBC and the individual transgression of the specific commissioners. I am aware that EACC is investigating some of those commissioners. I wish EACC could expedite, come up with the results of the investigation, then let's arraign whoever it is they find guilty or culpable of whatever commissions before courts of law. So, but while those investigations are going, for me, I think what is most important is not to throw away the baby with the bathwater. And listen, at the risk of, I don't want to sound like I'm defending anybody here, but let's look, for example, the person of the secretary to the IEBC. He was only recruited last year. Some of the coordinators, some of the individuals, the clerks, people who've got families. So when we say let's disband the IEBC, let's deconstruct. What exactly does that mean? Does it mean that the entire institution must go? And what does that mean, for example, for the preparedness of Kenya to 2017 general election?
Do you think if we disband the commission, or rather send the commissioners home, that there is enough time to reconstitute that ahead of 2017?
But listen, I mean, that's why for me I say let's separate between the individual commissioners and the institution. Okay. If we disband the commission today,
that means sending everybody home.
That means sending everybody
the Secretariat
home. And then we bring in another, say, angels or whatever. Right. I mean, I'm assuming that's the way people want to go. Will we have addressed the root causes of the problem? Now, if you ask me, there are proposals that have been made in the 2014 audit. For example, do we have a tamper-proof systems and processes in IEBC today that can give everybody the confidence that going forward, the vote will be protected? Do we have a register that actually we can all confidently say this register is in tandem with the voters registered so far? I think for me, those are the processes we must ensure they are in place for IEBC.
Okay.
But we must separate individuals' transgressions, just like we say. When we say that the EACC commissioners were not competent now to do the job, did we disband the entire EACC? We send the 3 commissioners home. Right?
Okay. So
let's be fair enough to the institution of the IEBC without necessarily excusing if there are individual transgressions of the commissioners.
All right, so let's talk about the structure of your mediation proposal. What would that look like? You say you're already talking to some of the leaders.
So what I've sought to do already is that I've decided to start to meet some of these parties bilaterally. I can confirm to you that I've met at least 2 of the parties so far. Let me not disclose names because in the interest of mediation, as an arbiter, I do not want to throw names there.
Right, well, we have one of the very influential members of those parties on Checkpoint later on, so we'll ask him.
Yeah, so I've met those parties, and to be honest with you, there is a willingness to sit down and say, okay, what do you really accuse me of? What are these issues? What is it that we have done going forward? And I think for me, that's the kind of dialogue that we need to do right now. So what I'm offering to do maybe in the next week or 2 is to see whether we can actually bring these parties on a round table. And I'm saying this on the background of already 154 members of parliament who represent 154 constituencies and many Kenyans. So there is really desire to have dialogue. This is not the first time we're having dialogue as a country under crisis.
Right.
Somebody has to step up. So instead of picking a hard stand like everybody has done, what the leadership of Third Way Alliance is doing, and which is what I'm doing, is to say we are ready to help mediate. Because even for us as interested parties, we cannot go into an election with this kind of stalemate. Especially if, for example, one of the parties decide, I'm not going to participate in the election.
Right.
What does that mean for Kenya? Already as we speak, businesses are suffering. We've lost about 4 lives in this country. Tomorrow, with the proposed Mahandamano tomorrow, we are going to see, stalemates. I want to urge the police also to be a bit cautious. The right
Just a very quick one. Should CORD, carry on with the protest tomorrow? It's been outlawed by the police.
Listen, protests, picketing are constitutional rights and democratic rights. CORD should not be barred from carrying those demonstrations. At the same time, I'm calling on the police not to use excessive force to arrest anybody within the CORD who is damaging property. The business of the police is to give protection, but not to stop people from exercising their democratic constitutional rights. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Dr. Akuru Alcott, who's a 2017 presidential hopeful from Third Way Alliance Kenya, offering to mediate in the stalemate regarding the Electoral and Boundaries Commission in the country. Will he be successful? He says he's reached out to some of those leaders. We will have them a little later on Checkpoint. We'll be asking whether they're willing to sit down on the table, mediated by Dr. Akuru Alcott. We thank you for your time tonight. We will indeed, as we always do right here on Checkpoint. Let's move on to a stalemate of a different kind, and this is at the Judiciary once again, which will be on the spot as lawyers engage in the fate of the Supreme Court judges Kalpana Rawal and Philip Tunoi. Here's Murimi Mwangi with an insight into the crisis that is threatening to tear the judiciary apart.
The collapse of mediation talks on the retirement age of judges stalemate has thrown the Supreme Court into a limbo. 70-year-old Deputy Chief Justice Kalpana Rawal and suspended Supreme Court Judge Philip Tunoi, aged 72, are challenging their retirement at 70. But even as a 5-judge bench chaired by Chief Justice Willy Mutunga resumes hearing the retirement age dispute, KTN News has now learned that the mediation talks, spearheaded by the Law Society of Kenya, flopped over alleged fears within JSC quarters. The Justice Rawal might serve for close to 5 months as the acting Chief Justice and consequently also sit at the JSC after Mutunga's planned retirement on the 16th of June. During the closed-door mediation talks, JSC reportedly clung to a hardline position that a judgment of the Court of Appeal, which prescribed an immediate retirement for Justices Rawal and Tunoi, should not be subject to mediation. The undercurrents of this standoff were evident in the courtroom on Thursday, even before LSK and JSC officials met for the Friday talks.
Mediation that is being proposed, may I say with tremendous respect, it will be a complete waste of time. It will not go very far at all.
The mediation flopped as it should, because you cannot also mediate on a constitutional provision, what is clear as day and light.
But reacting to the prevailing retirement age stalemate at the top court, Makueni Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. said the failed mediation has given the Supreme Court and by extension the judiciary a bad name. His Mandera counterpart, Bill Okero, argues that the parties involved in the dispute should now give space for the Supreme Court to speedily sort out the mess. But with less than 2 weeks to Mutunga's exit, the highly anticipated Supreme Court verdict on the retirement age stalemate is said to be the greatest determinant whether the recruitment of Mutunga's successor will be undertaken simultaneously with that of his deputy.
Once a constitutional crisis is in the offing and the Chief Justice retires in few days, naturally Justice Rawal will sit on that bench. And naturally, therefore, she will be chairing the Judicial Service Commission that has had tremendous issues with her.
If this recruitment of Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice is to happen concurrently at the same time, it is more suitable to, I think, all the stakeholders, because they will be able now to balance between the different ethnic groups. They will be able to balance between the gender perspective.
Now, with 3 judges of the Supreme Court, including the Chief Justice, staring at a possible exit this month, then no doubt a determination of the retirement age dispute will determine not only the future composition of the Supreme Court, but also whether the JSC will undertake a simultaneous recruitment of the Chief Justice and his deputy. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News in Nairobi.
Away from matters politics now, 5 months after standing up for fellow Kenyans against Al-Shabaab militants in a bus attack, Abdirashid Adan is still nursing his wounds. He has accumulated over 1.5 million shillings in hospital bills, but the help promised by the government to foot the bills now seems a mirage. Mark Namaswa caught up with him in Nairobi's Isli estate.
At just 20, Abdirashid Adan is frail and limping because of the December 2015 Al-Shabaab attack in Mandera when a bus he boarded came under fire.
Mimi nilikuwa nimekaa kwa mali ya mlango. Watu walikuwa tumeona kwa barabara. Na waaskari wengine wako huko kwa Kutulu walikuwa tumetusema sisi. Walikuwa wamesema watu wengi walikuwa wako hapa kwa Al-Shabaab wako kwa msituni, wako ndani ya msituni. Na sisi tunasema hawezi kuacha tupite tu. Kitu Mungu umeleta hawezi kosa.
Aged 19 at the time, Abdirashid and the late Mwalimu Salah Farah stood up and defended fellow passengers, mostly Christians, when Al-Shabaab sought to separate them.
Watu walikuwa wamesimamisha gari. Kwanza walikuwa wamesimamisha kwa gari nyingine lori. Umeua watu 2 wa Kristo. Na sisi walikuwa wamesimamisha na sisi tulikuwa umeficha sana. Mimi nilikuwa nimekaa kwa malango na umekataa kufungua ile malango. Watu walikuwa wamesema fungua malango na mimi nilikuwa nimekataa kufungua malango. Amesema sisi tunataka Kristo peke yake. Sitaki Waislamu. Na mimi nilikuwa nimesema hakuna Kristo gari wako ndani. Nilikuwa nimepatia hijabu, wengine nilikuwa nimepatia makofia, wengine wameweka kwa chini ya kiti.
3 bullets are what he got, the scars evident to this day. When he was airlifted to Kenyatta National Hospital, the world sang and celebrated their heroic deeds against the Al-Shabaab. Government officials promising that their bills will never be an issue.
We stand by Kenyans of goodwill who come up and stand up for their friends, for fellow Kenyans when the time of difficulty occurs.
They will only be discharged once they are ready to be discharged to go home. And in terms of money, probably just to add to what the CS has said, is that at this point even we actually don't have the total bills. The patients are still going through the treatment.
But today, Abdirashid's family is in deep distress. Hospital bills have shot beyond the 1 million shilling mark, drugs out of their reach. When contacted, Kenyatta National Hospital CEO promised to furnish us with all details by Monday.
Mimi ni maskini na nilikuwa naomba na serikali yangu nisaidie na kijana yangu wakati alikuwa amebeba sisi, ameleta sisi, na tena unataka serikali yetu unasaidia mimi na angalia maisha ya kijana yangu na maisha yetu yote kama kurudi.
Abdirashid has been forced to put up at a relative's place in Eastleigh after making a 3-day journey from Mandera. All this taking a toll on his frail mother.
Aya, mama mwenyewe ni maskini, ako na watoto karibu 8, watoto wanasoma shule. Kijana anazunguka na hii kijana huko na huko, hata anaweza kukosa kukula lunch kama hajatupigia sisi family. Akaangukia hata Kenyatta hospital akiwa anatapika. Mpaka daktari amekuja ametupigia simu anasema hii mama anataka kuanguka, kujeni mchukue.
The cost of patriotism is definitely high, and young Abdirashid has had more than he can take. Looming KCSE exams, at the same time nursing wounds. Yet the very leaders that sang his praises are nowhere to be found at his hour of need. Come Monday, our leaders will be engaged in political battles. But who amongst them will remember that among the citizens there exists real patriots like Abdirashid? Mark Namaswa, KTN Weekend Prime.
Indeed, it is hoped that he will get the help that he so desperately needs, especially because he stood in the way of so many people and stood for them, rather. Now, models with a difference. That is what Mombasa residents experienced recently. And they came with a distinct message that people with albinism are no lesser human beings.
Electric performances from local artists broke the ice as everyone took their position to follow the proceedings. Beauty beyond skin color was the theme of the night, as people living with albinism for the first time will find a rare stage to showcase their talents.
It's just like a dream come true, where you see people appreciating the beauty in albinism and all that stuff. It feels great.
Take it like I have albinism. Nobody would take it out there. So one thing for me, I'm here because I am myself. I accept it.
People living with albinism feel that the society is yet to fully accommodate their unique skin color, and there was no better way to pass their message. Exhilarating jigs from dancers would then follow, as poets also took the stage.
They're showing that people with albinism can do anything that other people can do. It's the difference is skin color.
A crest of a wave would run through the building as the moment to take to the runway came. The models, both men and women, making scintillating moves on the stage, donned in an array of fashion designs.
People living with albinism are left out in many social events.
Nominated lawmaker Isaac Moura traveled all the way from the capital city to grace the event.
Are persons with albinism getting the right care? Are they being accepted? Are they going to school? Are they getting job opportunities? Are they being protected from killing?
Despite several campaigns to end discrimination against people living with albinism in East Africa, the vice has continued unabated. The warped notion that the body parts can be used for rituals to occasion success has seen hundreds killed in some parts of the region. In Tanzania, 1 in every 1,429 birds is born with the condition, the highest in Africa.
See the difference and embrace the difference.
The dermatological vulnerability of the skin of people living with albinism makes them more at risk of developing skin cancer, and the condition comes with visual challenges. Although the event may not have attracted much focus from local authorities, participants still had a reason to believe that their message was loud and clear. Francis Ontomwa, KTN News, Mombasa.
Chock full of inspiring stories today is our bulletin tonight. Now, the month of Ramadan begins tomorrow for our Muslim brothers and sisters. Our reporter Saida Swale explains what this entails.
For some Muslims, it is Monday, 6th of June, while for others it will be Tuesday, the 7th of June, both in Kenya and all over the world, that fasting begins officially on the holy month of Ramadan. It is the 9th month in the Islamic calendar where Muslims show their respect for the time in which God revealed his teachings through the revelation of the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Fasting is one of the fundamental pillars of Islam, which is prescribed unto every able Muslim and is spent by Muslims fasting during the day from dawn to sunset. Muslims are advised not only to abstain from food and drink, but worldly pleasures that may cause temptations of any kind. It is during this time that Muslims are taught the virtue of resilience by remembering the less fortunate who may not have food or drink on a day-to-day basis. In Mogadishu town, plans are underway to welcome this holy month. Fruit vendors and businessmen are at their best, offering a wide variety of produce to customers who are now stocking their homes with fresh food. Sweet treats are also in plenty. During the Madaraka Day celebrations, President Uhuru Kenyatta announced the exemption of tax on all dates expected to arrive for this holy month of Ramadan.
Let me recognize that the month of Ramadan is about to start, and as our Muslim brothers and sisters prepare to observe this holy month of fasting and purification, I take this opportunity to send them my best wishes.
Even though Ramadan is mandatory for adults, except those who are exempted, children as young as the age of 8 are taught how to fast and the benefits that come with it. Ramadan brings out special feeling of emotional excitement and religious zeal among Muslims of all ages. The first days of Ramadan are the days of mercy from God. The second days of Ramadan are for forgiveness for the past sins from God. And the last days are emancipation from hellfire. And from the KTN News Desk, we wish all our Muslim viewers Saum Makbul and Ramadan Kareem. Saida Swale, KTN News.
Welcome back to Checkpoint. Now on the number today, we're focusing on some rather shocking statistics that are coming out from the National AIDS Control Council. And this is in regards to stigma, which many would have thought was eradicated by this point. And remember, stigma continues to be the one thing that impedes the fight against HIV. Now, this is some very shocking statistics. Now, this is what it says, that 6 in 10 Kenyans actually think that HIV is punishment for bad behavior. These are statistics coming out from the National AIDS Control Council. It also goes on to say that a further 5 in 10 blame people living with HIV for their illness, and 48% of parents would not allow their children to play with others whose HIV status is known. Now, this is even more shocking. 52% claimed in the survey that they would not buy food from someone whom they know to be HIV positive. Now, this is interesting in many more ways, especially considering the fight against HIV and AIDS, the fact that the government is now providing free ARVs, the efforts with prevention of mother-to-child transmission, but also that it's coming decades after the discovery of HIV and AIDS, and the fact that life is now prolonged and drugs are available. But also interesting in terms of how we think of, sex. And I want to give you this example for just a moment, because those numbers say one of two things. One, either that we're ignorant of the ways in which HIV is spread, because it is not only through sexual intercourse, but there's other ways of spreading HIV. But then it also perhaps states that we're hypocritical in one way or another. This is why. Now, non-communicable diseases account for half of all hospital admissions. Why is this an important number? Because non-communicable diseases are also due to, quote-unquote, bad behavior and poor lifestyle choices. Think about the sedentary lifestyles. Think about our poor eating habits. Think about excessive intake of alcohol that lead to the rise of non-communicable diseases like hypertension and diabetes, which account for half of all of these hospital admissions. In case you think this is a big thing, I'll talk to you about some of the numbers when it comes to that. 47.4 billion shillings is the overall market for medicines for all of these non-communicable diseases, which by far are the biggest killers in Kenya at the moment, above HIV and AIDS. Diabetes affects an estimated 3.5 million Kenyans, and about 2 billion shillings is spent on drugs for diabetes, and a little bit more than that on drugs for hypertension. What is the point of all of this? All of them are diseases that are caused by, if you like, poor lifestyle choices. Why do we have stigma on HIV and AIDS and not on the non-communicable diseases, which are also as a result of some of the lifestyle choices that we make? Perhaps in the number tonight, we need to be a little more realistic with ourselves in terms of our thoughts around sexual intercourse in this country. That is the number for tonight as you ponder on these shocking statistics, because what essentially it means is out of 10 people who are watching me right now, 6 of you believe that someone with HIV/AIDS amongst your midst, in your midst, got that due to their own behavior and that this is punishment from God. If that be the case, then we should all be punished, for we all make poor lifestyle choices and lead to some of these shocking statistics we've seen tonight. I'd like us to move to our memory lane segment right now on Lest We Forget. We like to do our countdown every Sunday right here. We have 428 days left to the 2017 general election. Put aside all of the issues that are being put on the table for a moment between Cord and Jubilee. Everybody digging their heels in. The question we like to ask on Checkpoint every night is, are you ready? 428 days to go. Are you ready? This means, are you registered as a voter? So let's remind you that the voter registration process in this country is continuous, and it has been since the last general election, and that the registration is happening at the constituency level. Now, the voter registration process will continue up until the 10th of May 2017, when that process will be suspended, allowing the IEBC to collate the numbers and put together the final voter register. Regardless of which way this goes, are you ready to pick your leaders? We're asking you to go to your constituency, tell us about the process or procedure, as we're learning about those two words today. How is that for you? Is it working? Is it not? Are you finding the election registration officials at the centers? Is it a slow process? Is it a fast one? Please let us know. This is our WhatsApp number, 0706 727272. Take a picture, let us know what that process is like, and then send it to us. This is the number. We want to check and see whether this process is working, and if it is working for you. We will keep reiterating right here on Checkpoint that you, the voter, is the ultimate decider, and you need to be ready. Are you? Go out, get yourself registered. Send us pictures. We would like pictures. Remember, it's TV, so pictures would be really helpful on this number, and we'll be sharing them with you right here on Checkpoint next week. Let's take a quick break right here on Checkpoint. We will be right back. The Kenya Motocross Championship continued in Nairobi as Rolf Kihara kept his star shining, winning the MX-85 class, while Jed Takun reigned supreme in the MX-65 class. Maina Wanjigi and Kigen Kiplagat were also among other riders that impressed at the Jamhuri Park.
The National Motocross Championship got into the fourth leg of the season at the Jamhuri Park in Nairobi, with some fierce rivalry playing out among the riders. In the MX-65 category, Jed Takunen was on his best to outshine his opponents to win today's race by 60 points ahead of Deka Kihara and Mary Echai, who closed in on the second and third positions respectively.
It was a really tough race because I had to keep up with my pace, and if I had fallen, it would be a catastrophe.
I've been really pushing in practice, and I've been working with my trainer, and we are doing good, and I'm sure I can.
In the MX-85 class, the rivalry between Kigen Kiplagat and Maina Wanjigi could not go unnoticed as the two riders battled for the top spot. Kiplagat, however, picked Maina Wanjigi to the top position after picking up 60 points, ahead of Maina, who collected 51 points as Christian Chege finished third.
I'm always aiming for that first position, but we have to wait and see. That's the beauty of motocross. You never know what's going to happen.
My rival, unfortunately, also got a technical difficulty in his bike, but overall, at least I came top.
Rolf Kihara was untouchable in MX 125 category. Kihara beat competition from Alex Moy and John Schreier. Kihara recorded 60 points, while Alex Moy was second with 43 points. Ngugi Waweru was victorious in the MX2 category, while Trey Garner won the MX50 class. Robinson Okenye, KTN Sports.
Samsung lifted the Focus Cup Polo Championships after whipping Coke 1917 in a bruising battle at Manyata Polo Club in Gilgil Sunday afternoon in the three-day competition sponsored by Samsung and Coca-Cola. The handicap 11.5 Samsung team of Rafael Nzomo, Sasimir Gross, Tarkan Gross and Philip Arunga won the three-round robin match against Coke, whom they smashed 6-5 in the first match and pulled two more victories in the second and third matches. At the end of the three matches, Samsung accumulated a total of 19 goals against 17 for the Coke team of Jamie Murray, Archie Vusby, Henry Lim and Izzy Parsons. TAC rack comprising of Gideon Moyes, Sacha Craig, Ben Stonewick and Will Miller won the Ansley Cup with an emphatic 6.54 win over Sprite in the finals. So I'm not sure we have enough time for our feedback tonight, so I will check out our Twitter poll. We had that one. So please check out our feedback. The hashtag is Checkpoint. We're running quickly out of time, but we have just enough for my take tonight. And it is only fitting that it focuses tonight on what is set to happen tomorrow. Or shall I say, what now happens every Monday. The quick facts of the situation are as follows. The opposition coalition court has planned to hold a series of demonstrations in the country to push for the removal of IEBC commissioners. The commissioners have said they're going nowhere. The police say they have a court order stopping CORD from holding the demos and will not allow them to happen. But CORD insists the court order only stops them from storming IEBC offices. The president and his supporters, on the other hand, have said there will be no dialogue on this matter outside Parliament. CORD says there won't be dialogue on this matter through Parliament, but rather there will be dialogue through Parliament, and in all this, there is no one who seems willing to stand down from their position. What we have then is a stalemate that is likely to play out on the streets tomorrow. From the onset, there is no dispute that tension is building in the country, and that cannot be good for anyone, no matter their stand, no matter their motivation, no matter their position in society. What is truly in question tonight is not who is right and who is wrong. That will be settled in the normal course of politics and history. But that there is so much tension and confusion in the country suggests that something is amiss. The lawyers are worried about it, religious leaders are concerned, and many business people are not sure whether or not to open tomorrow. It is therefore naive for anyone to suggest that it is business as usual in Kenya, as some in government seem to believe. Equally, it is presumptuous for the opposition court to imagine that this should be about a few politicians sequestering themselves in a room to decide the country's collective future. Yet the moment definitely calls for some kind of talks, and the more broad-based, the better. What will not help, however, is the chest-thumping and grandstanding we have seen on both sides. After all, we all know that all the politicians, no matter where they stand today, belong to the same class and will perhaps be treating one another to a drink tomorrow after their supporters have clashed and thrashed each other on the streets. That is why this cannot be just about President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. It must be about Kenya. And that is my take tonight. Thanks so much for joining us and for your feedback tonight and indeed every night right here on Checkpoint. I'm Yvonne Okwara Matole. Our sign language interpreter was William Silla. Have a good night.